Welcome to the Rockin' Rich Lynch on the Radio Show. I'm your host, Rockin' Rich Lynch, inviting you to join me as we discover great new music by bands and artists from around the world. With interviews, music news and reviews, great prizes, and a whole lot more. Visit us online today at soundpress.net for great music promotion and publicity. Hi, this is Rockin' Rich Lynch, and you're listening to the very best of Rockin' Rich Lynch on the radio. We recently moved our operations from the New York, New Jersey market to Nashville, Tennessee, and we are now looking for a production and broadcast partner in the region to take the radio show to new heights. If you're a band, musician, solo act, or represent a musical project in any genre, please visit soundpress.net and our new site, musiccitynashville.net, to learn how we can help get your message to the world. Now, please enjoy this great interview from our archives. The man we're about to speak with has consistently been rated in the world's top rock drummer in reader polls for well over a quarter of a century, and it gives me great pleasure and honor to finally welcome him to the show today. Here's Mr. Mike Portnoy. Welcome, Mike. How are you?
Good, thank you.
You know, Mike, you've got to be the hardest working man in show business, as you are always in constant motion with so many active bands and projects currently happening for you. I'd like to start off this today by talking to you about the three most recent times I've seen you in a live setting, not necessarily in chronological order, if that's okay.
Okay.
First up was last November. We got to see PSMS. We reviewed that for soundpress.net, the Portnoy Sheehan McAlpine Sherinian project, and right now that's officially a commercial entity, as Live in Tokyo will be released this September on CD and DVD. We really love that performance you guys put on. What should fans expect from this package?
It comes out September 3rd, and it's on Blu-ray as well. So it's an amazing concert film from one of the last shows we did, which was in Tokyo, and that was a tremendously fun tour. We did about 2 months throughout Europe and Southeast Asia and Japan, and I mean, what a band. It was just an incredible band of incredible musicians, and we did all instrumental music, stuff from each of our individual and collective pasts. Obviously, Derek and I were together in Dream Theater, and then Derek and Tony were together in Planet X, and Tony and Billy played together on Tony's Edge of Insanity album, so there was a lot of common ground between the four of us. So the set list was made up of all that music, as well as some covers, and it's an amazing Blu-ray, DVD, CD, and I'm excited that we were able to document it to share with everybody out there. So looking forward to that in September. Right.
It's just one of the many projects that the world's greatest drummer, Mike Portnoy, has coming out right about now. MikePortnoy.com is the website for you to find out everything about the man and the drummer. And we're going to talk about his other bands that he's working with very, very shortly. Mike, most recently we saw you just last month at the Bonzo Bash at Bergen Pack in Englewood, New Jersey. It was an overwhelming dose of drummers that night.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I still have a hangover from it.
So
not from drinking, from drumming.
Exactly, a drumming hangover. How did you get started with the Bonzo Bash? And it looks like that event is continuing to grow with each passing year and each passing concert that they put on.
Right. Well, that was the third time I had done it. Basically, it's Brian Tishy's event, and he started it a couple of years ago exclusively on the West Coast out in L.A., basically, obviously as a tribute to the great John Bonham, and, who is such an inspiration and influence for every drummer of every genre. I mean, he's one of the most universally loved drummers. So, doing a tribute to him was obvious, and, so many drummers stepped up to the plate to be involved. And I did two of them out in L.A., and then was able to do the New Jersey one here last month. But man, it's such a great event, having all these amazing drummers from every different genre coming together to pay tribute to one of the all-time greats.
Yeah, that night was certainly a 4.5 hour assault on the ears.
Yeah. The one I did earlier in the year in L.A. was a 6.5-hour show. It was unbelievable.
Oh my God! I can't believe people will stay. I mean, I didn't want to leave, but I mean that's certainly a large commitment of time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it just goes to show how great and timeless the Led Zeppelin catalog is. You know, that people will stay for that long to hear that music.
Mike, I want to stay with the theme of Bonzo and the Bergen Pack because we actually met you in 2011 after the Jason Bonham Led Zeppelin Experience concert, which you were there as a spectator. What did you think of Jason's work that night? And he's certainly making his dad proud, right?
Well, it was similar to the Bonzo Bash. In fact, I found it really funny when I showed up to the Bonzo Bash, and I was like, oh my God, this is the same room where I saw Jason do his tribute. So the only time I've ever seen a show in that venue was the same set list and the same drum set, you know. But yeah, I mean, what Jason's doing is truly remarkable, and obviously, of anybody in the world that should be paying tribute to John Bonham, Jason is the one. You know, it's similar to what Dweezil Zappa does for his dad's music, and seeing Jason do it is incredible, and the stories he would tell, and you know, nobody has that attachment to Bonzo the way that Jason does. So seeing him do it is truly special.
Right, and it definitely was. We got to see that twice in 2 years, and it was a very, very fun time. Now let's switch gears, Mike, and talk about the real reason why you're here today. TheWineryDogs.com is the website. Everybody can go over there and follow along, and also join Mike at his personal page at MikePortnoy.com. The brand new album is slated to drop July 23rd on Loud and Proud Records, the debut self-titled project from the Winery Dogs. Many, Mike, are already calling this project the album of the year. That's got to make you happy.
That's awesome. Thank you.
We've listened to it.
Yeah, I mean, we're incredibly proud of it, and it's a great band with great songs and great playing. You know, I'm honored to be in a band with two unbelievably amazing, talented, you know, virtuoso / geniuses. So yeah, it's great talent to be surrounded by.
It's certainly a hard-hitting album. I mean, it's all very, very appealing stuff, and you know, you're getting a lot of sound out of that three-piece.
Well, actually, you know, it's funny that we're talking about, you know, we were just talking about John Bonham and stuff because this is the first all-original band that I've been a part of where I'm actually using a John Bonham, you know, type setup. Obviously, I've always been known for the giant monster drum kits that I used with Dream Theater, and you know, that was always fun and appropriate for Dream Theater. But my musical taste is very broad, and the same goes for my you know, interest in drum kits. So you know, this is the first time I'm using a 5-piece classic rock kind of drum setup in a all original band. So it's a nice change of pace for me, just because it's you know, a different environment for me to be creating on.
Is there still a double bass that you're using in this outfit?
No, it's a John Bonham setup: kick, snare, 1 rack, and 2 floors.
All right, hey Mike, on the recent season opener of That Metal Show with your good friend there, Eddie Trunk, Richie Kotzen was ranked as the top most underrated guitarist of all time. He's really quite good, and vocally he seems to be in the Glenn Hughes to Sammy Hagar mold. You must be pleased that he's finally getting some long-term overdue recognition with the Winery Dogs.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's going to be the biggest surprise for people with this album is Richie's unbelievable talents. And he is one of the most underrated guitar players, but I think even more so, he's one of the most underrated singers. That's what blew me away, you know, once I discovered him, his unbelievable voice. You know, people did get a taste of his guitar playing as the fill-in guitar player for Mr. Big and Poison, but I don't think people realized the singer that he is and the songwriter that he is. So yeah, to me, that's going to be the biggest, the most satisfying thing about this band is introducing the people that are not in the know to the unbelievable talent of Richie Kotzen.
Yeah, because Mike, he's got that walking and chewing gum thing down, because, you know, I try to play a few chords on the guitar and maybe sing a few songs every now and then, but, you know, to do what he does and to play those riffs and the chords all at the same time, I mean, it really shows a lot of ability on his part.
He's just one of those naturals. He's a true natural artist, and he's not one of those types that is, taught in school. You can't be taught how to play and sing and write like that. That kind of artistry comes from the soul, and Richie's the real deal in that respect.
Mike, you've said in a recent interview that the Winery Dogs offer you a musical outlet that you've never had before. Considering the acts that you've worked with in your incredible past, that's an incredible statement. What did you exactly mean by that?
Well, I meant stylistically. I said that I did that interview, and then I saw, the online trolls get all huffy-puffy, as they tend to constantly do with everything I say.
Yeah.
But I saw that statement get misinterpreted as people thinking that I was insulting any previous musicians I worked with, and that's obviously not the case. I have a tremendous amount of respect for all the musicians I've worked with in my career. I was talking about stylistically. Stylistically, the Winery Dogs is something very different for me because it's not rooted in progressive rock, and it's not rooted in metal. Winery Dogs is not a prog band, it's not a metal band. It's a straight-up rock band. The same way that Van Halen is a straight-up rock band, or Led Zeppelin was a straight-up rock band, or Aerosmith. So I do stand by that statement. I think it just needs to be clarified that the Winery Dogs is offering me a musical environment stylistically, which I've never had with any of my previous bands.
Okay, so you got to clean it up for the social media, and that's something I do want to see if I get a chance to ask you about a little bit later on. But Mike Portnoy, the hardest working man in showbiz that's working today, MikePortnoy.com, is on the phone with us. Mike, it really makes me happy that you made a few minutes available for us today. I'm glad you're here.
My pleasure. No problem.
I'd like to switch gears and talk about your 5-piece that you've been working with the last couple of years, a group called Flying Colors. And last year I got to speak with Casey right around the release of the debut time, and I told him that I really liked Fool in My Heart, which is basically a song that you're singing main on, but you're actually sharing vocals with Casey a little bit. And, I wanted to ask you, what should fans expect from the new Flying Colors record, and will there be another vocal track from you on this one?
Well, what should they expect? We've started work on the album, but unlike the previous album where we got together and banged it all out at once, this time around, just because everybody's schedules are so difficult to align, we're just doing it in chunks. So we did the first session, the first chunk, and we've already wrote and recorded 4 songs. And stylistically, it's kind of where we left off with the last album. Obviously, Casey's voice is a huge part of the style and the direction, and it's very eclectic in terms of styles. But basically, we have 4 songs done, but we probably won't be reconvening anytime this year because the rest of the year is very booked up for each of us. So we'll see when we can get more time on the calendar and resume. But I anticipate the next album will probably be by late next year at this point. As far as me singing, we haven't determined that, but I've actually had a vocal cord accident since the Flying Colors tour, where I damaged the vocal cord, and I haven't been able to sing. So maybe that's God's way of getting me to shut up. But as of now, I don't know if I'll be doing any more lead vocals just because of this problem I've had with my throat and my voice. So we'll see. Time will tell.
Yeah,
there is the Flying Colors live Blu-ray, DVD, and CD, which is coming out in later this year. And obviously, I sing "Fool in My Heart" on that, and I also sing lead on the Dream Theater song "Repentance" that we did.
Right, Mike, drink some tea because we need you. I mean, "Fool in My Heart" is just so good. It really just, it feels so good. Everything about that song.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Because I wanted to ask you, with all the moving parts in that band, Flying Colors, I mean, the album, that debut was certainly marked by a lot of musical diversity, and I made the assumption that you guys were going to get together again this year and do the exact same thing you did the last time, which was bang out the whole album. But do you feel that you already referenced to the fact that, the album's going to be eclectic again, but do you feel that you came together with a greater sense of a band identity this time around? Because last time you guys basically, convened in a room, and that was the beginning of it all.
Yeah, absolutely. When we made the first album, and like any band, when you make a first album, the Winery Dogs album is another example. When you're a new band coming together and make a first album, a lot of times you're meeting and working together for the first time. So in the case of Flying Colors, when we did the first album, obviously Neil and I had a long history, and Steve and Dave had a long history, and me and Dave and Steve had long histories as well, but it was the first time that these 5 people came together to make music. So it was all very fresh and all very new and also very fast. You have to kind of do it with a lot of pressure when you're in that situation. Since then, obviously, the 5 of us have spent a tremendous amount of time together, on the road and off the road, and there's a camaraderie and now a relationship within the band that wasn't there the first time around. So, when we got back together 2 months ago to begin work on the next album, already there was a camaraderie and a vibe and a comfort that already surpassed what we had the first time around.
Good, and a lot of shared experience as a band, and that's all good. I mean, that record also. I mean, everything you're touching lately is just it always has been, but the quality of the work that you're putting out is is exceeding expectations. Continually, and I really like all this stuff. I'm having a good time.
That means a lot to me. I mean, I put a lot of pride and passion into everything I do. Every single album I've done over the last 3 years since I left Dream Theater, but really in my entire career, that it's very important to me to work with people that are, inspiring and they make me rise to a new level. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Mike, do you have to change your approach to drumming when you're working with a 3-piece, a 4-piece, or a 5-piece, or even, larger bands like, Neil puts together from time to time?
Say that again.
Do you have to change your approach to drumming when you're working in a 3-piece, a 4-piece, or a 5-piece?
Yeah, but not only the amount of people, also the style of the music. I have to change what I'm playing. The way I play in Adrenaline Mob, the way I play in Transatlantic, the way I play in Flying Colors, the way I play in Winery Dogs. Each one of those is a very different style. So not only does my style have to change, but the drum setup and configuration needs to change. In all those cases, I kind of have to play for the song, and the songs are usually calling for different styles. But obviously, the people I'm working with also makes me, have to change direction. And the amount of people, like you said, like Flying Colors is 5 people, Dream Theater was 5 people, Transatlantic is 4 people. The Winery Dogs happens to be my first time ever being in a power trio. Out of all the bands and projects I've done through the years, I've never done a power trio. So for me, that's also very interesting about the Winery Dogs. And, there's so much space involved when you're in a trio. Basically, you have drums, guitar, and bass, and all 3 of us singing, but there's a lot of space. And it's great when you have a bass player like Billy Sheehan who could fill that space, so well.
Most definitely. We are talking to arguably, some would say, the world's greatest rock drummer of all time, Mr. Mike Portnoy. He's on the phone with us.
I'll even be one to argue that, but thank you.
MikePortnoy.com is the website, and thewinerydogs.com is Mike's brand new power trio band with Billy Sheehan and Richie Kotzen. The debut album drops on July 23rd from Loud and Proud Records. We're talking a few moments about Mike's many, many projects that he's got going on. Mike, it's my understanding that many of your recent projects have been recorded in expedient fashion, but many of the albums that I know you and I both love, the classic rock stuff from the 70s, some of those albums took 3 to 9 months on a regular basis to get recorded. So my question is do you like recording in this very quick manner that you've become accustomed to lately? And would you also like the luxury of time to maybe sit back and really craft a masterpiece like like when the record companies had the big budgets back then and people could take a year to complete an album? Does that idea interest you now that you've done it so quickly, so often?
I prefer working quickly, only because my mind is always spinning in a million different directions, and I like getting in there and getting it done. I don't like talking and overanalyzing and overthinking. I see a lot of bands that do that, and I don't get it. But it's not for me. I mean, different strokes for different folks. So whatever. I'm not judging the way that other bands work, but it's not for me. For me, I prefer to get in there and be inspired and go for it. In most cases of a lot of the things I do, whether it be the Winery Dogs or Flying Colors or Transatlantic, in a lot of these cases, we'll get together, we'll write the song, and I want to record my drums there and then. I'm in the moment, I'm inspired, I'm excited, and I want to just lay down the drums while I'm in it. So that's how I prefer to work. I'm not one of the type of the drummers that likes to write a song with the band and then demo it and then put it on the shelf and then relearn it 6 months down the road to properly record it. To me, I would rather just get in there and do it. So I prefer doing it the way I do it. And and I've been fortunate to work with other artists that are the same way. When we did the Winery Dogs album, Billy and Richie were the same. When I work with Transatlantic, Neil and Royna and Pete are very much the same. Even in Dream Theater, me and John Petrucci and Jordan Rudess very much work like that. When we did Liquid Tension albums, we would write and record it and do it right there and then. With Dream Theater, we had the luxury of more time and would spend a lot more time. But really, the writing to recording amount of time was pretty much the same. We just had the luxury of spending more time. But personally, I don't think it's always needed.
Yeah, probably.
You could make a masterpiece. You can make an amazing song in one day. Some of the greatest songs of all time were not labored upon for months on end. Sometimes they were written within an hour.
Probably for you, the longest thing in Dream Theater is charting out those drum parts.
Well, I hate that. I hate charting out drum parts. I like feeling the moment, and I think anything I do, I'm one of those type of players that go by feel. Neil Peart, who's one of my greatest influences of all time, he's the sort of drummer that will meticulously write out a part and then play it the same way for the rest of his life. And that's great for him, and that's one of the things I really admire and respect about him. But I personally could never do that. I need to react and just react in the moment, and every time I play a song, I like to be in the moment. And when I'm on stage, I don't think I've ever played any song the same way twice. I need to be in the moment and react and just play from the heart, not necessarily from the mind.
Hey, Mike, something else that came from your heart was your decision to leave Dream Theater almost 3 years ago now, coming up in the fall. I just wanted to know, do you envision a day that you might be able to work with some of the guys in the band again? Like, is there a chance that there would be another chapter in the Liquid Tension experiment project?
Well, as far as Liquid Tension, surely I would be into it. I've been into it and been interested in doing a follow-up record for all these years. So I guess it's mainly up to the other guys, but whatever. I think the ball is really in the other guys' court. I never say never. I'm a very nostalgic person, and I look back to all those years with Dream Theater with great memories and fondness, and I'm a nostalgic person. Even in Dream Theater, I was the one that invited, Charlie Dominici and Derek Sherinian to join us for the 15th anniversary of the first album. And I always extended the invite to Kevin Moore to rejoin us for, to do something. And I worked with Kevin Moore in OSI for a couple of albums. So I've always been a nostalgic person that embraces the past and my relationships with people in the past. I'm not so sure if the other guys are those types of people, because even all those years in Dream Theater, when we, did work with Charlie and Derek again and invited Kevin again, I don't think the other guys necessarily were the types to would have initiated something like that. So I can't speak for them, but surely I never close the door and I never say never. And I think it would be sad if we didn't ever work together again, to be honest, But I guess, time will tell.
I just wanted to ask you about a couple projects that we received at the soundpress.net website in the recent months. The first one just came in last week. It's a band called Sound of Contact, put together by Simon Collins, the son of the great Phil Collins from Genesis. Are you aware of Simon's work?
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're a great band, and I love the album, actually. I'm a big fan of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's really good, and it's really interesting because we have a little bit of a father-son, drummer theme happening on the show today. And there's videos of your son, Max, who is also an extremely talented, very young drummer on the rise. Do you foresee him following in your footsteps? And, how's the Berklee College Fund coming along for him?
Max he really reminds me of me when I was his age. He loves music. He loves drumming. Man, I mean, I watch him play. I feel like I'm seeing a videotape of me from the early '80s when I was his age, and it's amazing. It's really heartwarming when you see your own child, doing something like that. And I had his band out opening for a few shows with Adrenaline Mob earlier this year, and I helped produce their demo, their latest CD, and also did a video with them. So obviously I'm incredibly supportive over Max's interests and whatever he wants to do with his career. I am totally supportive of and totally proud of.
So is he completely open to you mentoring him and giving him advice along the way?
Yeah, I'm actually, there's a lot of times where his band will be playing and I'm purposely not giving advice. I'm trying to stay out of it because I don't want them to, feel like I'm trying to, to stick my nose in. But he'll actually come to me and ask me. He'll ask, I guess, he really trusts my opinion and looks for my guidance. So, I basically leave the door open to him. If ever he wants my guidance or opinions or suggestions, then I'll always be there to give it for him. But at the same time, I want him to be able to find his own way, if that's what he chooses to do.
On the phone with us right now is Mike Portnoy, one of the world's greatest living drummers. MikePortnoy.com is his personal website, and his new band is the Winery Dogs. Their brand new debut album, self-titled, is coming out July 23rd on Loud and Proud Records. Mike is talking to us just for a couple minutes. I just have a couple more, Mike. The next project that I was talking to you about that we got in was the most recent release from Spock's Beard, Brief Nocturnes and Dreamless Sleep, which I think is quite epic. Are you still a fan of Spock's, even though your bandmate Neil isn't with them? And have you heard this release?
Yeah, absolutely. I love the new album. I'm still friends with all the guys. I've always been friends with all of them, not just Neil. So when Nick was singing, I was very supportive of them. In fact, I went on the road with those guys for a couple of days a few years back, just for the fun of it, just to travel with them and have fun. And even now, without Nick, I'm still really good friends with Alan, Dave, and Rio, and Jimmy, and I know Ted from back in the Enchant days. So yeah, I'm still a great friend of all of them and a supporter of what they do. I think the new album is amazing.
Yeah, we do too. Mike, you are well known for creating a number of side projects, as you've done most recently in these last few years, many with the world's greatest musicians. Who is left on your wish list to work with?
God, I don't know, man. My wish list has been so satisfyingly fulfilled through the years. It's really incredible when I look at the catalog of music and the discography and the shows I've done and the people I've played with. I really could die happily and satisfied at this point. I mean, of course, there's always more people that I would want to work with. Obviously, I've always been saying that I'd love to do something with Michael Ackerfeld from Opeth. That's still an unfulfilled collaboration that I'm hoping to someday do. And working with Steven Wilson would be great. There's obviously people that are unobtainable, that are the dream people, like Roger Waters and Paul McCartney and Pete Townsend. I mean, those are my greatest heroes of all time, and I would do anything just to be able to polish their shoes. Those are the dream ones. But really, for the most part, my God, I'm in a band with Steve Morris, and I'm in a band with Billy Sheehan and Richie Kotzen and Neil Morris and Paul Gilbert and all the people that I've collaborated through the years. It's a dream list for me. So honestly, I'm so unbelievably fulfilled with what I've done thus far. I can die happily.
Right. So in addition to your work with the Winery Dogs right now and Flying Colors, which is going to be coming out next year, and you're going to be regrouping again with Transatlantic, you don't have any other surprise groupings right now that are in the works?
No, no surprises. I'm not looking for new work at this point. My God, I'm having enough trouble juggling what's already on the table. The Transatlantic album is actually has already been written, and the basic tracks are done. So that album is well underway and probably going to be out in January of 2014, and we'll do some live shows around that. But for the most part, really, my focus right now is really on the Winery Dogs. I mean, that's what's on the table now for the rest of the year in terms of touring, and that's going to be pretty much the most time-consuming thing for me for the moment.
Hey, Mike, that's good to hear because your fans can kind of like put the flow chart away and now just focus on the bands that you're, consistently currently doing this consistent great work with. You talked about it a little bit earlier. How do you really feel about social media? Because you've used it expertly to, help in your promotional advances of all the work that you put out there, but it has created some controversy for you in the past.
Well, for me, I mean, I've always been about the fans and about that open relationship with the fans. Even before social media, even before the internet, I was always the one in Dream Theater that answered the fan mail and wrote, to the magazines and did the tape trading thing and always, oversaw the fan clubs. So that relationship, that artist-fan relationship is so unbelievably important to me. So, once the internet came around and then social media, obviously it was something that I really took to and embraced and have used to continue that open relationship with me and the fans. And sometimes I feel like I get taken advantage of, and sometimes, that openness has sometimes, created controversy because I am so susceptible to judgment because I have that open relationship and that open door, and I post a lot and I reply a lot, so yeah, sometimes it's dangerous, and sometimes I become open to so much scrutiny and controversy because of it. Obviously there's people that don't use it, and people never say anything bad about them because they're just not there out in the open as open targets. But you know what? At the end of the day, it's an important relationship to me, and for every one troll and hater that I'll see on these stupid websites, there's another 99 fans out there that love and embrace and appreciate what I do. So I guess that's way more important.
Yeah, and keep at it, Mike. I mean, you've certainly experienced the double-edged sword nature of the beast, but you are out there keeping contact with the fans, and like you said, most of them really want to hear from you, and they're really happy when you do put yourself out there. I'll just ask you one more, Mike, and then I'll let you go. We've had many repeat customers on this show, so hopefully you'll come back when you got a lot of projects coming out. But in addition to your love of music, you're also a well-known sports fan. Are there any other hobbies or personal interests that take up your time?
My biggest love beyond music is film. That's something that I'm a huge fan of. Specifically film directors and independent and foreign film directors. People like Stanley Kubrick and David Lynch, and people like that, Quentin Tarantino, Darren Aronofsky. Those people are just as big of influences on me and what I do as any musician or songwriter. So that's probably my biggest love and passion beyond music is film.
All right, Mike, good luck. The Winery Dogs World Tour is beginning in July. Take a look at the website for all the dates, starting off in Japan, coming here to the U.S. We were going to try to catch a show. Can't wait till we do, and it was so great to finally talk to you, Mike.
Thank you. No problem.
Thanks for listening to the Rockin' Rich Lynch on the Radio Show, part of the SoundPress.net radio network. Remember, if you're a band or artist looking for promotion, or if you'd like to sponsor this show or add this program to your station, please get in touch with us today at SoundPress.net.